Hey there, I'm Chelsea, and today I'm going to show you how to edit this natural outdoor portrait that I took of my daughter Madeline and my lovely Labradoodle Sandy. I'm going to be showing you how to do frequency separation in the first half of the video, and the second half of the video I'll go over dodging and burning. So let's get started with the frequency separation. Select your background layer and then press Ctrl-J twice to duplicate that layer 2 times. For the lower layer, you're going to name it Low. The high layer, you're going to name High. Not because that one's low in the sequence, but because it stands for low frequency. High stands for high frequency. Now we'll go into the low layer. Go to Filter, Blur, and Gaussian Blur. Now let's zoom out and find Madeline's face here. Okay. And you don't want it too blurry because it will make your final picture look blurry. So I usually set it, you want to kind of blend the tones in the face, but not blend the features too much. So I'll put it at about 4.5, 4.7. Press OK. Now if you turn off your high layer, you can see that underneath your high layer is that blurry low layer. Now let's go into your high layer, select that, and we'll go to Image and Apply Image. And here you want to make sure that your layer is set to low. You have RGB, that's good. You want it to be set to Add for your blending mode. You want your scale to be 2, and then you want all of this inverted. That looks a little bit crazy, right? Next, you're going to select a Curves layer. And you'll take this little point here and drag it to the base of your curve, and this one and drag it to the top. Drag it right to the point here. And you can see that it makes the picture look pretty bad, right? You want that because that's going to show you where you need to edit. So now go into your high layer. Let's zoom in on the face. And you can see every imperfection, which is nice for this because we're going to now use either your patch tool or your clone stamp, whichever you're comfortable with, and we're going to get rid of all of the little imperfections that we don't want. So we'll go here. So I just want to show you, this is right on the crease of her cheek. You want to sample from a similar area, and you can see in the preview, so you want a bit of shadow there in the crease. You don't want to eliminate the crease, and then it looks natural. And just go through and eliminate the blemishes, any little spots you don't like. And always try to take the sample from a similar area of skin. So this point on her nose here, I'll go to the skin next to it, not down to a shadow or a seam or even one of her freckles. Just right next door is good. One thing you want to be careful of is you don't want to duplicate any pattern. So, for example, I wouldn't want to drag this here and repeat those freckles. And if I did, you can always just take them and get rid of them. But once you start seeing patterns like that in a picture, you can tell that it's been edited. Keep it natural. You can see as I'm removing these stray hairs, I'm following the crease in her forehead so that the line is continuous. You don't want to break any natural patterns. Okay, so that seems to be most of it. I'll turn off my curves layer and then change my high layer to linear light. And it already looks much smoother, but I can see that there are some imperfections still. So what I'm going to do is keep my patch tool here and just touch up anything that I missed. Next, I'm going to group these 3 layers. Press Shift while you select, and then press this little thing here. And I'm going to name this Frequency Separation, or FS for short. Next, I can see that there are little imperfections with her skin color. There's some red left over here from a blemish. There's a little bit of blotchiness. So what I'll do is I'll click on my Frequency Separation layer, and then I'll create a new layer down here. And with this layer, I'm going to correct her skin tones. So let me select a brush, and I'll put the opacity up to 100%, but put the flow down very low, maybe like 2 or 3%. Let me make sure that my brush is very soft and that it's small. And I'm using my left bracket key to make it smaller. You can use your left and right bracket key to make your brush larger or smaller. Now I'll press Alt and I'll sample some skin around this area. My brush is a little big, and I'll just lightly brush. And then I'll select some of the red and I'll kind of brush around it just to blend this in. I'm going to press Control Z because I don't like the way that came out. And I'm going to zoom in a little bit. Now the picture looks a little soft, but we're going to fix that later. We'll get there. Be patient. This is definitely a process. Make my brush a little bigger and just blend the colors around it as well. And then here, there's a little bit of purple under her eye, so I'm going to grab this light color here and just brush some of that out. You can select your color from a few different places just to kind of blend the tones so you don't have a big patch of the same color. And then there's some pink in her cheeks, which I like, but I'm just going to blend it in a little bit. And if I wanted this to be even better, I would probably lower my flow a little more and just really take my time. Sometimes I tend to rush when I'm teaching y'all. Just kind of smoothing out some of this blotchiness here and smoothing out this transition into the shadows. And then sometimes I like to just go in and lower the opacity a bit because I don't want it to be perfectly smooth. I want to show some texture, and a little variation is okay. This isn't going to be on the cover of a magazine. It's just a family picture that I took. So I'd like it to look more natural. Okay, so now we're going to add some of the sharpness back into the picture. So we'll go to our low layer and make a layer mask. And we'll select black and set our opacity to about 30 or 40% and our flow all the way up. I'm going to zoom in on the eyes and just brush a little sharpness back into the eyes. And later, I would normally go in and bring out the sharpness of the eyes a little more in the color, but I don't know if we'll go over that today. We'll see. Once you do that, I'm going to close this group up, and with the frequency separation group selected, I'll press Control-Alt-Shift-E, and that makes a new stamp visible layer. And then I'm going to name this layer High Pass. Now we'll go into Filter, Other, and High Pass. And you don't want to set this too high. We'll set it at about 1.4. And then set the blending mode to linear light. And you can see that this looks really grainy. You can see every hair. It doesn't look good. And that's why you want to go into the opacity after and lower it. So you're just adding a bit of sharpness to the picture, but not an unnatural amount. Okay, so let's zoom out a little bit, and you can see the high pass filter made a little bit of a difference, sharpened it up a little bit, and the frequency separation made quite a difference. Let's zoom out even more, and you can see it evened the tones in her skin. It still looks natural. We took out a few blemishes and just lightened up under her eyes a little bit without losing the texture under her eyes. It looks really bad if you just completely smooth it out. It starts to look like a mannequin face. So you want to keep some texture there, and you don't want it to be completely smooth or too bright. So next we're going to get into dodging and burning. There are a lot of different ways to do dodging and burning. I've done it different ways, creating a gray fill layer and using dodging and burning that way. But today I'm going to cover the curves adjustment layer version. So you're going to make 2 curves layers, 1 and 2. And I've actually created an action for this, but I'll have to find a way to give that to you. Maybe I'll do that in the comments. I'll tell you how to grab that. I'll have to work that out. Okay, so for the bottom adjustment, you want to call this, let's do this dodge. And then we're going to bring this up at the midpoint. Set your blend mode to luminosity, and then press Control-I with the mask selected to invert the mask and make it black. Now for the top one, we'll call this one burn. And then we'll drop this at the midpoint and invert this one with Control-I, and also set this to luminosity. I do a lot of burning, and that's why I just made my own action just to make it easier. So now I'll select both of these layers and make a group, and I'll name these this dodge burn. So let's open that up, and first let's go to dodge. So select your dodge layer. You have your brush selected. It has to be white. I still make this mistake all the time. I'll be painting black on black and wonder why nothing's happening. Well, you gotta set it to the opposite color. And then you want to put your opacity down. You want this to be subtle. I think that the biggest mistake that people make when they first start doing dodging and burning is that they want to see results right away, so they don't build, and then you get this really unnatural, kind of strange looking picture. So be patient and build on your edits, and then usually at the end you want to dial it back a little bit. Even professionals can over dodge and burn and make a nice picture look kind of weird. Okay, let me put this away. And something that I like to do is I just kind of squint my eyes a little when I'm looking at the picture, and that helps me see the brightest places in the picture. So if you squint your eyes with me right now, you'll see the bridge of the nose, the top of her cheeks right here is all lit up, and she's got nice full cheeks, so even a little bit around here, these cute little round cheeks, her lip, a little bit above her lip, a little bit of her chin. So you can definitely see the parts that are lighter, and you want to accentuate that. If you start going against the natural curves of the face, that's when it can look a little bit strange. So I'm going to make my brush a tad bigger. And then just hit all of those places that are supposed to be a bit brighter. Here I'm going to make my brush bigger, squint again, just see where it's naturally brighter. The cheekbones, it's going to be different on an adult. Adults have more angular faces. And then for little spots here, you can zoom in, and the devil is in the details. You want to zoom in and get all of these little details. You don't want to leave them out. You can see, you really want to take your time. Like I said, I usually rush when I'm doing tutorials just because I don't want to bore you, but these little edges here, this makes the difference. This defines the nose. This little edge here along the top of the lip defines the lip. Don't be afraid to make your brush small and be precise. And the same with the eyes. There are these little tiny details where you can see these nice highlights and they just make her eyes pop. If you do makeup, then you'll know that these are places you highlight when you're doing makeup. I learn a lot about makeup from Lightroom, and I learn a lot about Lightroom from doing makeup, so they do go hand in hand. I guess if you're a painter or another kind of artist, you probably know that too. And then the whites of the eyes, we can bring those out a bit. One mistake people make is they brighten the whole whites of the eyes. They'll brighten here, they'll brighten here equally. That's wrong, because your eyeball is a circle. It's not flat, so the light doesn't hit it evenly. Usually it's brighter here, and then because it recesses, it's a little bit darker there. So you can brighten around the edges, you can brighten the iris a bit. You usually want to brighten the iris opposite of the catch light. So here's the catch light. This will be the brightest part of the iris. And you don't want to get this line here. You just want to get right in between. This is another thing people tend to overdo, so chill out. Don't go crazy on those eyeballs, guys. I've been seeing you doing that. I'm worried about you. You're freaking me out. And you can do this brow ridge here. Did I already do that? I get to talking and I forget. Okay, looking good. Now we'll go to burn. Same type of deal. You can squint your eyes again. We should do that together. That was fun. All right, and then you'll get along the sides of the nose, and this defines the nose, and it can even make it look thinner. This has been my friend in the past. Get around here, define her nose a little better, and then you can see that this defines the cheekbone. I'll do that a little with her. I would do that more with an adult. Like I said, adults have more angular faces, but she's still young. She's got those cute little cheeks. I don't want to mess with that. I'm going to do along the jawline here and just darken that a bit more. And get in the eyebrows. That's a good one. Your eyebrows frame your face, so you want to make sure that those are a little darker. And then you can also see along the brow ridge is usually darker in here. And with some people you can burn in the hairline around here, but I don't think she really needs all that. So we can go to the dodge and burn group here and turn it on and off, and you can see the difference. It's subtle, but it's good. And with the burn, I may have gone a little too far. You can either make a mask and selectively reduce some areas, but sometimes I just like to bring it down about 10-15% just to, you acclimate as you're looking at it, so I just like to work on it and make it a little more natural. So I'll bring down the burn a little too, and then let's see. Then I like to zoom out and make sure that it doesn't look like a creepy plastic person from far away. People will probably be looking at it like that. And it's just a subtle difference. Now, you're going to dodge and burn again. If you have an action for this, you can go ahead and use that. If future Chelsea gives you my action, you can use that. I haven't made up my mind. But you can also do Control J. And the only thing with this is now you have to go back to the masks and put black paint at 100% and undo, because it'll be doubling everything. You just want to undo what you did before. Put your opacity all the way up. And now you can do your dodging and burning over again, except this time we're going to do the hair and the clothes and things that you can dodge and burn a bit more heavily. So the face, I go light on that, more natural. Keep it simple. With the hair, you can kind of pump it up a little bit. So we're in dodge now. I've got my opacity. I'll put it at 70%. That might be too much. Make sure you have a white brush And let's go into her hair. And this can take up a lot of time. Like I could spend a half hour on the hair. You want to make sure that your brush is thin and that you're highlighting the already there highlights. So squint your eyes again, look for those highlights. You can see she has a lot of nice highlights. You don't want to just do a big brush and just go like that. Like it looks so flat now. Don't do that, guys. Don't be lazy. Use a thin brush and get every little individual piece. Man, this is going to take a long time. Man. So I'm going to put my opacity down a little bit. This is getting a little chunky. And I can make it smaller, the brush smaller. And the variation of the different size of highlights just looks more natural. You've got some thick ones, you've got some thin ones. Kind of makes me mad that kids always have natural good highlights. Like, what? I have to pay for that? Kids don't even want to wash their hair. They get nice highlights. They don't even know what they have. You could even go in and highlight some of the camera if you want. If you really want to punch up the details in the camera, you could go crazy. Now I'm going to lower the opacity even more because some highlights are brighter than others. So I'll add more highlights, but these will be a little thicker and a little lighter. I mean, darker. You know what I mean. You can see these highlights aren't as bright. I already did the very brightest one, so now I'm kind of going over the less distinct highlights and bringing those out. And that blends in the brighter highlights as well. Now we'll go into burn and we'll do something similar, but everywhere there's a highlight, you kind of want to burn alongside it and bring it out a little bit, and it will define your highlights. And it can also blend them, because sometimes when you're adding those highlights, they can get a little bit chunky or unnatural. And this will kind of make them pop, but also blend better. So right alongside the highlights, you just add a little bit of burning. This defines the curls in her hair, makes those highlights really pop. Let's see how it's looking. Oh yeah, so it just brightens up her hair a little bit. That looks nice. Next, it's really crucial that you highlight your Labradoodle, because you don't want your friends and family to think your Labradoodle's not fabulous. So let's get your eyes. Gotta make her eyebrows pop. That's Sandy's best feature. She's like the Andy Rooney of dogs. All right, and now we'll go into burn, and we will burn alongside those fabulous eyebrows just to bring them out. Bring out those brows. That's a little much. That's better. And now you can go in and you can even dodge and burn clothes. So her jean jacket, I mean, it's not very interesting. The shimmery shirt would have been a better example. You can kind of accent all of the shimmers. Again, I like to squint and just see where the highlights are on the wrinkles. It'll just add more depth. So if we go over here to her arm, you can see there's a highlight on this wrinkle, this one. And bring out the buttons and make them more sparkly. Or the color of her shirt here if we want this to pop a little. So if you had a gauzy shirt or a chunky knit or something more shimmery or luminescent like a silk, this would be a really nice time to dodge and burn those clothes and make them just look richer. Like I said, a jean jacket isn't really a great example, but I'm just showing you anyway. And you just burn the shadows. Okay. So that's it. I showed you frequency separation to naturally make the skin smoother and make the color better, and also dodging and burning. So if you'd like to see more videos like this, subscribe below, maybe like, maybe write an encouraging comment with suggestions or whatever. Thank you very much.